Welcome to IVF This, episode 183, IVF and Power Grabs. Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. After 10 years of primary and secondary infertility due to both male and female factor infertility, I am now the mother to 3 beautiful miracles. I am married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you how to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go. Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you're all doing so well. I am about to head out with my family. We go to Colorado every summer for a week, 10 days. And so I'm recording this. When you guys hear it, I will actually be back in Texas, but it'll be very nice to get away. This is kind of our annual summer trip. And so we have a lot of things that we really enjoy doing. And frankly, just getting out of the hellscape that Texas can be during the summer is probably the biggest benefit. But I hope if you are traveling that you are safe. And if you are not traveling, I hope that you are doing something or many things that you enjoy regardless. So last week, and this is kind of a continuation or a new add-on to what we were talking about last week, but we were talking about choosing helpful thoughts during IVF and infertility grief. And I shared how that can be, one of a few ways that you kind of can reclaim the sense of agency, of power, when so much of our experience feels completely out of our control. So today we're going to go a layer deeper and we're going to talk about what I call grief power grabs. Now, I guess I shouldn't say I call that. I heard that from a fellow coach. That's how she kind of described it. And I really loved the imagery of what it elicits. And you'll come to understand what I'm talking about in terms of power grabs, because that probably feels like an out of the box thing, like you not really sure what I'm talking about. I will make that very clear. But for me, the imagery of what a power grab looks like, right? The tension, the dissonance, that's why I really liked the way she kind of explained it and how she labeled it. But let's be honest, friends, IVF and infertility can leave us feeling profoundly powerless, whether it's our first failed cycle, our fifth, whether we're struggling with unclear diagnoses, financial strains, or just watching all the other people in our lives kind of seemingly move forward while we're still stuck in limbo. This journey can feel like a really long exercise in surrendering control. And that, understandably, is a feeling that not many of us enjoy. So today I want to talk about what we often do in response to feeling powerless or to powerlessness, not because it's bad, but because it's human. Because when we feel powerless, our brain, being the efficient little problem solver that it is, tries to regain some semblance or some sense of control. And it often does it through what we call these power grabs. So what is a grief power grab? It's any behavior, thought pattern, or action that gives us a temporary sense of control in the midst of deep grief and uncertainty, two of which you have no shortage of during the infertility IVF process. So sometimes they're helpful, right? Sometimes it's not. But most often it's something that we don't even realize that we're doing. And that's the goal of this podcast episode, is to help you see what you're doing so you can intentionally decide, hey, is this a behavior I want to continue, or is this a behavior that I do not want to continue? For me, I can remember the first 18 months of trying to conceive before we got pregnant with my oldest. Towards the end of that run, that 18-month run, I had at that point 2 surgeries to fix I had what's called a mucinous cyst adenoma. So I had a grapefruit size tumor, non-cancerous, benign tumor on my left ovary. Sorry. Righty's the one that has pulled through, my left ovary. And so the first way that we found it was an ultrasound, and I had to have surgery one time, and they just kind of drained the cyst and thought it wouldn't return. It turns out mucinous cyst adenomas, like I had, they come back. Like you have to get rid of the diseased ovary. Otherwise, your ovary is going to just continue to form those very large grapefruit sized cysts. So, a couple of months after the first surgery, I actually had that was when I had my ovary, my left ovary and left tube removed. That was kind of probably the peak of the darkest time of that experience. So, that was just a little over maybe 14 months and some change into our infertility journey. We didn't realize it was an infertility journey at that time. We thought we were just trying to conceive. And so it was at that moment that I had this kind of crisis and realized what it was what I was doing over the 6 months that preceded that. I was really, really focused on my health, like hyper focused on my physical health. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to take care of your body, but I was obsessive over it. I was logging every single bite of food I could, put in my mouth, tracking every ounce of water. I was walking tens of thousands of steps a day, and I would even. We lived in an apartment in Houston at that time, and we were moving to Austin shortly after. But I would even walk around the complex in July in Houston if I hadn't quite got all my 10,000 steps, because it was such a hyper focus for me. So it wasn't like a healthy way to do this. At the time, it felt absolutely empowering. Like I was really doing something for myself in service of getting pregnant. Like I was proving to myself, maybe in the world, right, that I could control something, because I damn sure couldn't control getting pregnant. But looking back, the lens that I have now, over 10 years now, almost 12 years removed, I can see how much of that was fueled by grief, by pain, by wanting something so desperately and not being able to have it. And I wasn't really caring for my body. Truly, if I really think about it, I was trying to outrun my ache. I was trying to outrun my ache. I was trying to avoid the pain of feeling powerless by overcorrecting into control. And again, it wasn't a moral failure of mine, and it's not a moral failure of yours if you do this too. It's just a very human response to a very human emotion, right? So let's explore some of the ways that this might be showing up for you. Maybe it's in the form of hyperorganization. You're tracking every supplement, timing everything perfectly, color coding your medication schedule, because the structure gives you a sense of control when everything else feels chaotic. Maybe it shows up in how you manage your household finances, checking your fertility clinic portal 3 times a day, obsessing over cost-benefit ratios for every treatment option, researching every possible insurance loophole. Again, not wrong, but maybe it's rooted in fear, not empowerment. Or maybe you find yourself emotionally withdrawing, cutting off social engagements, staying super busy, or clinging to rigid routines, all in an effort to avoid the unpredictable terrain of your own emotional landscape. Maybe it even shows up in how you talk to your partner, making all the decisions for yourself, because that part of you feels vulnerable and doesn't want to open the door to more uncertainty or disagreement. I've definitely been guilty of that multiple times in my life, not just related to infertility. But grief power grabs can also show up in a little bit more subtle ways. Over researching, over scheduling, trying to get it right, attempting to control your environment, your diet, your mindset, your outcomes. Because if you do it perfectly, then maybe, just maybe, you'll finally get what you're longing for. Whether that is a baby or just a sense of peace. It might even show up in your self-talk, which I would venture to guess it does, but I want to leave the door open that, someone listening doesn't have this. Maybe you've created strict rules about how you're quote unquote supposed to feel in order to do things or in order for things to work. Maybe your brain has convinced you that unless you're hopeful, grateful, and optimistic 24/7, then you're probably not trying hard enough. That's a power grab too. That's your brain attempting to logic its way out of grief. And if this resonates for you, I want you to know this doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you broken. It means your nervous system is doing its job. It's trying to protect you from pain. It's trying to make sense of something that feels, frankly, like nonsense. But here's the thing. This isn't a call to stop doing these things. You don't have to throw away your spreadsheet or cancel your appointments for acupuncture or stop meal prepping. This is an invitation to ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing. Is it coming from a place of grounded self-care, or is it a frantic attempt to avoid feeling powerless? The truth is, my beautiful friends, powerlessness is part of the IVF experience. Not because you're weak, not because you're doing something wrong, but because this path asks us to surrender to it over and over and over again. Surrender to timelines, to outcomes, expectations, sometimes even our dreams. Let's just name it. It's really hard. But powerlessness is also just a feeling. It's a horrible feeling. It's still a feeling. Like all feelings, it can be acknowledged and felt and allowed to move through you. And then we stop trying to resist it. When we stop making powerlessness mean something about who we are, then we can begin to soften to it, to open, to breathe. Because here is the sneaky truth about all of this. We are never fully in control to begin with. Not before infertility, not before IVF. We just thought we were. And that illusion of control was comforting. So, of course, when the illusion gets shattered, our instinct is to scramble to try to recreate it as quickly as possible. But what if we didn't? What if, instead of grasping for control, we lean to hold ourselves in the midst of the uncertainty? What if we made peace with the fact that we don't get to control the outcome, but we do get to choose how we support ourselves along the way? What if our grief power grabs become brief check-ins, opportunities to ask, what am I feeling right now? What do I need right now? And am I moving from fear or from love? And what if, in those check-ins, we also gave ourselves permission to not have the answer? What if the point wasn't to fix it, like we're always in a rush to do? There's nothing to fix, but what if it's simply to witness it? What if your power came not from control, but from presence? No shame here, just awareness, just curiosity, just compassion. Compassion, compassion, compassion. So as you move through this week, I invite you to gently notice where you might be grabbing for power. And is it helping? If it is giving you in return what you want, or is it keeping you stuck? You are not wrong for wanting to feel powerful. You're not wrong for wanting to do what you need to do to survive this season, but you also don't have to live in constant tension and control. There is another way, a way of softening, a way of noticing, of allowing, and it starts with awareness. Awareness is the start to everything. And maybe, just maybe, when you allow yourself to be powerless, when you stop trying to muscle your way through your grief, you'll find a different kind of strength waiting for you on the other side. I promise you, you're doing beautifully. I'm very proud of you, all of you. Take such good care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of IVF This. If you like what you've heard, click subscribe and follow to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you want to learn more, head over to www.ivfthiscoaching.com to learn how to work together.